What up, YouTube? Web Mike here, and I would like to compare HBO Max's House of the Dragon to Amazon Prime's Rings of Power, or as I'll soon call it, Rings of Prime. Now, both of them are fantasy series made by big companies that are adapted from books. However, something very fundamental is different between them, and that's layered. Like, first there's the props and set design and costumes. On House of the Dragon, everything looks distinct. There's great care put in towards colors, patterns. It all looks very distinct and unique to its setting. Now, conversely, in Rings of Prime, I can't differentiate it much between Wheel of Time, Willow, or the Netflix's Witcher series. It all looks just like a generic fantasy series, which is amazing because Amazon Prime has so much more money that they put into this than HBO did. But necessity is the mother of invention. HBO Max is hungry to get people watching their shows, and that's because it is horrifically in debt. I think at least 50 million in debt. Amazon Prime, on the other hand, has all of the subscribers, 220 million, giving them guaranteed money, so they don't really feel a sting if this isn't a hitter. And however, they certainly spent enough to make people think, oh, well, this is going to be awesome. We're going to have 5 seasons of it. Okay, first off, slow that roll. You're only going to get to a 5th season if people actually want to see this. One big distinction between the two, I don't hear anybody talking about Rings of Power unless it's on Amazon. I'm sorry, unless it's on YouTube. Whereas conversely, IRL, YouTube, friend groups, whatever, I can talk about House of the Dragon. People want to talk about it. People want the next season, which we're going to get in a year or two. Now, another distinction between the two is they both take inspiration from previous historical events. Now, J.R.R. Tolkien hated direct allegory. However, I can see in his work times and places that are inspired by his experience in World War I. Such as when Gandalf says to Frodo in Fellowship of the Ring, "There are many who live that deserve death. There are many who die that deserve life. Can you give it to them?" And when I hear that, I can just think and imagine, who did he see die like a dog in the trenches? Now, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones are inspired by George R. Martin's interpretation of the anarchy and the War of the Roses. So right now, here we are in House of the Dragon. This is taking inspiration from the anarchy back in history. And then Game of Thrones is inspired by the War of the Roses. And if you don't believe me, all right, well, just look it up somewhere, anywhere. It has the War of the Roses was the Yorks versus the Lancasters. And in Game of Thrones, we have Starks versus Lannisters. Now keep in mind, he is creative, but I will always place J.R.R. Tolkien above George R.R. Martin. I like the aspirational heroism that we get in Lord of the Rings compared to the nihilistic and backstabbing we get in Game of Thrones. However, Hollywood knows that. Hollywood is really good at knowing backstabbing because that happens all throughout the industry. But they can't really grasp aspirational storytelling. Heroism, good, evil, duty, sacrifice, honor. That's not their world. That is Tolkien's imagination. And we see that when it came to the Lord of the Rings movies, because Peter Jackson specifically stated in an interview on 60 Minutes or something that he always wanted to make sure he was being true to Tolkien, that he wasn't inserting his own message into the movie. Well, in House of the Dragon, George R. R. Martin is involved in the process. So he's able to be there to make sure things are going as they should in a canonical manner. We don't, sadly, quite have that with Rings of Prime. J.R.R. Tolkien, sadly, has left this world and gone to a better place. And sadly, his estate isn't always the best at being good stewards of this property. When you look at The Lord of the Rings, all the fights of good versus evil, it's all throughout it. But does Hollywood really get that? Or do we get some preachy messaging that's boring and bland and just, tastes like stale soup? Because again, that's what I see when I see them do these fantasy series. It all looks the same. It's all flavored the same. And I gotta wonder, wasn't there a time when studios would try to compete with each other rather than serve the same thing? I don't know. But I do know that HBO Max is looking forward to being true to its storytelling. And I found myself very surprised in liking this because it's not something I would usually like. And going into it, I was not anticipating it, especially after the disastrous season 8 of Game of Thrones. All right, so I'm going to get a prequel to a story I didn't like. Can't say I was thrilled. However, I am objective enough to put all that aside and just judge it on its merits. Does House of the Dragon stand on its own? And I gotta say, between the performances of Matt Smith, Paddy Considine, Race Effins, and all the other cast in House of the Dragon, man, does it stand on its own. Man, is it cool. And one of the greatest performances is just a dude walking across a hall. Conversely, over in Rings of Prime, I can't say I feel very inspired while watching it. Matter of fact, I feel more inclined to go take a nap after watching it than feeling positive. And again, I know where House of the Dragon is going to end. I know it's not going to be pretty. I know it's not going to be good. But there are such aspirational moments, such as Paddy Considine's Targaryen trying to keep the realm together, doing everything he can to be a good father and a good king. And even though it doesn't work out for him, he's very inspirational in that regard. Because we all should aspire to do that, despite the world not always going the way we plan. Rings of Prime, on the other hand, we get laborious speeches, crude, brainless analogies such as, why does a stone sink and a ship does not? Because a stone only knows to look down. I know you're trying to explain to a child, but can you not find a better way to explain buoyancy? You've lived for at least hundreds of years. There's got to be something better you can do for that. I can explain why you shouldn't fill up on sweets to a kid better than that. All right, I'll do it right now. All right, so why do you not want to fill up on sweets? Because your body, and I'm going to take a bottle and say, your body's going to fill up so much on things it doesn't need before you eat. And there you are. You're full. Your body can't use any of it. So it's going to crave more and more of it. So therefore, you're going to have to eat more to get more of what you need. Whereas, like, I don't know, something healthy like an apple will only fill you up maybe that much. But you still have a whole lot more to go. But at least that little bit you're taking, your body can use. Now, how can I explain nutrition better than an elf can explain buoyancy? I don't get it. But again, what I do get is, now when you look at the ratings between the two, pretty comparable. However, House of the Dragon is more steady in the ratings, and it held on when it dropped off. So when its season finale ended, a couple weeks thereafter, it's still trending. Rings of Prime, on the other hand, its season finale goes, and it's off the map. No one cares. It's not talked about anymore, other than really to clown on it because, my God, does it deserve it? And now we're being told, oh, season 2 is going to be better pacing, more action. Hold on a minute. If your first season was so good, why do you need to improve it? Aha. You see, they always tell on themselves. The breaded always tell on themselves. And again, and then we hear, oh, well, season 2 is going to be more canonical, more accurate. No, no, no. No, it's not. You've already written it. You've already begun shooting it. How can it be more? You're getting the backlash once season 1 is done and you're already beginning season 2. We're not going to see a correction until at least season 3 at the earliest. But hey, regardless of what anyone says, you always have the ability to judge things on their own for yourself. And you don't need to listen to what's charting in the ratings to see what's good. Sure, I mean, it's a good barometer to see where interest is, but things that are popular aren't always the things that are best. But oddly enough, in this case, we have House of the Dragon ascending to its prominence and burying Rings of Prime. But that's all my thoughts. Love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and WebMike out.